Hi and welcome to Science Q&A. I'm Marco, I'm PhD student in molecular biology, and today I would like to answer the question, what is an RNA vaccine and how does it work? Before diving into it, I would like to make a couple of statements. So this video will be just about the technology itself and won't be about specific vaccines and specific tests that are now ongoing for vaccines against SARS-CoV-2. So if you have questions regarding these vaccines, so specific ones or specific tests or whatever, you can leave your questions in the comment below, or you can easily contact me on Facebook and Instagram. The page is always called Drops of Science, and I'll be happy to answer in details. And if there will be enough material, I can even make a dedicated video just for that. But for today, I will just explain the technology and what is the principle behind the RNA vaccine. Okay, now we can start. And since we are talking about RNA vaccines, we need to know what is RNA and what is a vaccine. So RNA is a molecule which is present in all our body and is also called messenger RNA. This is because of its function. Indeed, RNA carries informations which are read by specific machinery in our cells, which are called ribosomes, that allow our cells to produce proteins, which eventually are used to carry out all the functions of our cells. The way it works is that the RNA gets bound by the ribosomes read these informations and then synthesize accordingly the respective protein. Therefore, in summary, we can say that RNA is important to make proteins. Vaccines instead are, as we know, a fundamental tool of modern medicine. And the traditional way to produce vaccines so far has been like this. We produce proteins belonging to specific pathogens, like a virus for example, or we produce directly part of these pathogens, we package them and then we deliver them into patients via injection. The idea behind that is that once this mixture of proteins are inside the patient, the immune system from the patient is able to recognize these proteins and generate antibodies against it. Since these antibodies are very specific, he or she will have all the tools to fight against the invader. So all the traditional vaccines rely on the production of proteins or particles from a pathogen, and these are steps that occur in a lab. And the important thing to keep in mind is that this production is time-consuming and pretty expensive. So here is where the RNA vaccine comes in handy. Indeed, the big advantage of an RNA vaccine is that all these steps now are made directly by our cells. This means that from a production point of view, the lab or the company that is producing the vaccine only has to produce the RNA and then package the RNA and inject that to the patient. From this point on, the patient will receive the RNA will travel inside the cells of the patient. The cells at that point will start producing proteins. And since these proteins are belonging to another species, our body will recognize them as not self and will start producing antibodies against them. Of course, like everything, RNA vaccines have advantages but also disadvantages. In this case, the big advantage is that it saves time during the production phase, because as we said, all the protein production part is skipped. However, the big disadvantage at the moment is that RNA is an extremely unstable molecule. This means that the storage of RNA and also the transportation of it can be quite challenging, because it has to be carried out at minus 80 degrees, minus 70 degrees more or less. And of course, if you imagine transportation across the world and your family doctor has to keep and store this vaccine somewhere, it's very likely that family doctor won't have a minus 80 freezer in their studio. So this can really pose a great challenge to overcome. Luckily, there are some technologies right now that it seems to be quite successful, which aim at stabilizing the RNA in order to keep it also at 4 degrees, which is at normal temperature for a fridge, and this is much more available across the world. So to summarize, RNA vaccines work more or less like normal vaccines, but they have the big advantage that the company that produced them can skip all the protein production phase, because this will already happen directly into the patient. Therefore, we can say that one of the biggest advantages of an RNA vaccine is production time. Okay, for today that's it. I hope this video helped you clear your mind regarding RNA vaccines. Of course, if you have questions still regarding the technology itself or specific vaccines or tests or anything else, you can leave them in the comments below. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. The page is always called Drops on Science. And if you like the video, please hit the like button. You can also subscribe to the channel so you will be notified every time I upload a new video and you won't miss it. And with this, I would like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.